Are we recording? Can I stop making these? Steve Wenner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to go ahead and take all the scripts we've been working on and package them into an app we're going to deploy through Intune to kick off the migration. So get ready. Let me get out of this place. Okay, so we went through all our scripts, typed through most of them, have our graph app registrations, right? So we can authenticate. We should be all set. What we want to do is we want to package this into an application and deploy it to Intune through Tenant A. This way, that's what will kick off the migration. So the first thing we're going to do, the very first thing, is grab this Microsoft Win32 content prep tool. Now, if you've ever packaged an app for Microsoft Intune, you have this, you're familiar with it, you know how it works. If not, you simply download this, right? We can download the zip for it. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. I like to extract it. And what we can do is we can keep it in, you can really extract it to wherever you want. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take the exe itself, and we're going to copy it to C Windows System 32. Okay, so this way, when we start something as an admin, right, we can call it with no problem, right? So here, if I want to go, let's see, Intune Win App Util, right? So it's a really good way to do it there. But we're going to talk about that, and I'll put a link below to a write-up we did on how to use the tool. Hasn't changed much in a long time. It's very simple, very effective. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So what I like to do is I like to keep all the apps I make in a folder called C Win32, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a folder for migration. And inside that, you just want to put all your contents, right, of everything we created, all the scripts, everything from our repo, and we're going to throw that in there, right? Now, as long as you know the primary script we're calling, that's really all you need to know. You have to know where it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open command prompt elevated, and I'm going to call the Intune Win util. So I'm going to give it C for container, C Win32 migration. The S switch is for the setup file. We're going to call that start migrate.ps1. This doesn't matter so much. The only time the setup matters is if you're packaging an MSI. By specifying the setup file here, it'll pull out silent install, uninstall commands, but in this case it doesn't matter. And O is for the output, and we're going to put it in the same place we have the rest of our files. I'm going to go ahead, and now let's go check on that and see if it was packaged. Open up migration, and we should see the start migrate.intune win, and that's the file we're going to need. Let's go ahead and log into our Intune tenant A, right? So in our case, it's going to be the Rubix dev tenant. And what we want to do is go to apps, Windows. We're going to add the app. Okay. So we're going to go to Windows app, Win32, select. Now you have a few things you can do here. The first thing is we're going to select that package file. So we're going to go right to it. We know where it is. Migration. Beautiful. Now we're not going to get much here because obviously it's a PowerShell script. So let's rename it. Tenant migration start. And you can give it a description. This is going to kind of tie in with user communication. So you can essentially go, tenant migration app. I think that should be 2 days. Yeah. Tenant migration, they use Markdown for this. Tenant migration app. Warning. Let's see. This app will migrate this PC from Get Rubix. No, let's say RubixDev.com to stevecapacity.com. Good enough, right? We can think of something better there. Publisher, you can put your company name. I'll put Steve, and then you can put a little icon. Let me see if I found one before. Generally, I search for something. Put a little migration icon. It doesn't really matter. The important thing here is the install command. So we're calling the PowerShell script. So it'll be PowerShell exe execution policy bypass, okay? And then it's going to be start migrate PS1. Whenever you're doing an install line here, you want to assume you're inside the root folder, right? So if we had another folder, we would do relative paths. Because we're inside, we do // wildcard for uninstall. We can't uninstall this. You can go ahead and choose your operating system architecture, your minimum OS. I'm not really concerned about those things here. Detection rule. So how do we know this app was installed? It's not an app. Well, we're going to choose file. And if you remember, we set this very early on. We set right here, we set an install flag, which is going to be in our resource path, which is program data Intune migration. And we're looking for a file called install.txt. And that's exactly why we wrote this. So we're going to put C program data Intune migration installed.txt. I don't believe that's case sensitive. Well, just in case. It shouldn't be. But let's keep it real proper. And if the file exists, and if it does, that's how we know this worked. That's how we know the app is there. Now, we don't need dependencies or supersedence, but what we do need is how we're going to assign this. So in the method, in the blog, we've been essentially adding a group of users or all users. So basically what I would recommend in this case is we create a group for users who are going to be migrated. So let's come back to this. I'm going to go ahead and just upload the app to Intune. While that's doing that, I'm going to come here to groups. I'm going to create a new group. And I'm going to call the group my Intune migration wave 1. Assuming I have different groups I'm going to migrate in different phases. I'm going to say this will be the first group to be migrated to Steve capacity. And I can assign users in there and all that good stuff. So now I just go to apps, Windows. You can see my tenant to tenant migration. I'm going to go to properties, edit my assignment, and I'm going to select that group. So we're going to call this Intune migration wave 1. So now that that's assigned there, there's no users in it. As I put users in there, they'll see that app appear. That's how I control how I'm going to deploy that. I'm going to put a link to the first video in this series because this is how we got there. We got here by following everything we've been doing so far. Now that your app is packaged and available, you'll be able to see the end user experience. So this is like it's like a Quentin Tarantino movie or something not as cool, but what we got here. We're going to be working on a lot. We have a lot of new things coming to add to this, so stay tuned. But in the meantime, try it out. If you have an issue, throw it in the repo, comment below, and happy testing and happy migrating. 1, 2, 3, 4.